Now joining us is Steve Paikin. He's the host of TVO, used to be known as TV Ontario, which is the major public broadcaster in Ontario. The show is called The Agenda. Thanks for joining us.
Sure.
Now you've been a current affairs broadcaster at TV Ontario for 18, 19 years. Mm-hmm. Have you seen anything like what you've witnessed this weekend in terms of the police?
I saw a crowd of people very organically just sort of gathering on Yonge Street. It was a very peaceful group of people, actually. Came together quite organically. There was no ringleader of it. No people with masks on, no people with signs. It just was people coming together.
So none of this black bloc look?
None of that, none of that. We had seen earlier in the day people with masks on their faces, trashing stores, torching police cars. This was the furthest thing from that. So they wandered around the streets. There was, I don't know, maybe a couple thousand of them walking down Yonge Street, you know, moving onto some side streets, walking around for about an hour, would come in contact with a police line, would turn around and go somewhere else. This wasn't a group that was looking for a confrontation. In fact, there were a couple of moments during the course of it where they came to the big fence, which of course is well known as surrounding the whole G20 area. And I thought to myself, okay, here we go. There's 100 police on the other side of that fence, and some crazy person is going to try to scale that fence right now and get themselves on TV. Didn't happen. They got to the edge of the fence, they sang their songs, peaceful protest, that's what they kept saying. And then they turned around and went somewhere else. At one point in the evening, crowd is a little smaller right now. There's rain every now and then, so the crowd was thinning out a bit.
What size is the crowd at this point?
It's probably down to 500 or 600 at this point. They find themselves trapped at the base of one of the biggest skyscrapers in the city, the First Canadian Place.
They're herding us in. Let's get this. Let's document this. Let us go.
Where do we go?
Where do we go? Why are you herding us in? Get it on film. Get it on film. Let us go. Let us go. They're holding us prisoner. This is against the law. They're herding us in the middle. This is not democracy. We're peaceful. We're not the ones that caused the violence, sir. Don't just follow orders. Let us through. Let us walk through the streets in peaceful protest. Why do you have to use intimidation tactics? Peaceful, sir. We're peaceful. We're peaceful. Why are you holding us in? You can't push us around. You can't push us around. We're peaceful people. Are you going to be part of fascism? Let us be free and let us have our freedom of speech. This is God-given rights. Can you let me go, sir? This is a violation of my rights to walk in the freedom of the streets. Can I go, sir? Can I ask you, sir? Pardon me? Back up. Can I go through the streets, sir? This is my town. This is our town. This is Canada. This is a democracy. Are you just following orders, sir? This is what Germany did. This is what Germany did. They took the rights away from the people. They didn't let them walk in the streets, and then they put them in camps. This is not freedom.
And there's a police line, police all clad in riot gear on one side, police line on the other side, and they got nowhere to go. So they sit down. Everybody's making a peace sign. They got nowhere to go, and they don't want any trouble. And all of a sudden, for no apparent reason that I could tell, because it certainly didn't appear as if the police were threatened, their safety certainly wasn't in jeopardy, there was no potential damage to property or other lives, the line started to move in. And
how many police?
I'm going to say probably, 50 on one side, 30 on another. And
shields, batons?
Oh yeah, and guns. I didn't know what they were firing, but at one point, they started firing on the crowd. Probably rubber bullets, maybe just, but it was definitely pop, 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 pop.
Now, Chief Blair of the Toronto Police Service has said there's been no firing of rubber bullets. You saw something being fired.
I asked, look at something, I felt it whiz right by me, and it was repeated. And I don't know what it was. I couldn't swear it was rubber bullets. I asked the police afterwards, because I had my media badge on. I asked the police afterwards, what were you, what's in those guns? And they said, smoke bombs and rubber bullets. So I'm assuming that's what they had.
And these are at 500 or 600 people sitting.
Yeah, they scattered. Needless to say, the crowd goes off in any number of different directions, but then the police backed off, and somehow the crowd reconstituted itself after a while, walked further south towards the G20 area, stopped on a side street called the Esplanade. The Esplanade's it's kind of a thin street. You've got a large hotel on one side, you've got a bank of restaurants on the other. Well, at that point, kind of history repeated. 50 cops, well, maybe more than that, maybe 75 cops on one side, taking their batons and smashing their shields and moving in, establishing a line. Same thing on the other side. The protesters aren't, I even hesitate to call them protesters because they weren't really protesting. They were sort of gathered as a crowd and once again sat down on the road making peace signs, most of the time not even chanting, just quiet.
So the police are doing this is usually the symbol of intimidation.
It works, believe me.
And it's usually when you're up against demonstrators that are being very aggressive.
Yeah, there was no aggressive demonstration here. It was just a peaceable protest. Anyway, the police lines start to move in further and further and further, and clearly they have everybody surrounded right now. And there's nowhere to go. And it then got quite bizarre because one line came in and said, "Get out, get moving that way, leave." And the other side of police line kept coming in and saying, get out the other side, leave." And the protesters are saying, "We don't know where to go. You're telling us to go this way, you're telling us to go this way. What do you want us to do? Where do we go?"
Eventually, we got sort of corralled down at the Novotel in front of the Esplanade. Yeah. I never saw one bit of violence. In fact, they started arresting people while they were singing "Give Peace a Chance."
And then they were just closing in, so I decided this is getting a little too much. So I was on my way to leave. As I was walking by, the riot team attacked me and were like, "You can't leave here. You chose to be here, we gave you a chance to leave." I'm like, I didn't hear a single chance to leave, and nor did anybody here. And this is my first day even living in this town, can I please leave? And they just pushed me out of the way and said, "Do you want to make me use this on all of you?" And she had a tear gas gun in her hand. So I just continued and sat down with everybody. They just kept swarming in, and then just decided to announce, "We're arresting all of you. You had the chance to leave. We gave you a chance. You're done. You're gone."
The riot cops sort of corralled us all in, blocked off both ends of the streets. They never said, "Leave now or you'll get arrested." There was actually no word. There was Calgary riot officers. I tried saying, "Can we go?" Because it's starting to get a little bit scary, and that was our thing, was that we didn't want to get, I'm not a lawbreaker. What did they say? Smash, 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 stomp, stomp, stomp is what they said. No communication other than banging their shields. They got us into a semicircle. A couple came out of the keg, which is there, and they tried to leave, and they got too late. Bang on the shield, and the guy's like, "Too late for what?"
A couple came out of the keg restaurant.
Yes. Yeah, the keg
just
restaurant.
Across the road from the hotel.
That guy ended up in my cage. Yeah. There was a guy that was trying to show his ID. He lived in the condo there, and he got pepper balls shot at his feet, and he has to escape into the Novotel. You can catch him on the YouTube video. If you do Novotel, you'll see all these people running inside, and you'll see this guy who's just outraged because he lives in the condo and he's trying to go home.
It's like, "Listen, I live here. What do you want me to do?" I was like, back off, and start shooting at me.
I heard the bullets flying.
See that? There you go. Yeah. What the fuck is this anyway? Pepper, that's fucking morons.
As I walked away, these two police officers escorting me away from this site, I see 5 feet away from me a reporter by the name of, I later found out his name, I didn't know it at the time, Jesse.
Is it Jesse Rosenfeld?
Jesse Rosenfeld.
We know him because he's done some work for us from the Middle East.
Okay. He's reporting apparently for The Guardian. He doesn't have a G20 ID badge, he has the Guardian ID badge. So the police officers say to him, one grabs him by one arm, the other grabs him by the other arm, picks him up, drags him over, says, "We're going to take your badge, we're going to check and see if you are who you say you are, and wait right here." He had no choice to wait right there, they were holding on to him. Jesse wasn't rude and he wasn't belligerent, but he continued to press them. "Why are you detaining me? Why won't you let me do my job? I'm here from The Guardian. It's a reputable newspaper." He was completely immobilized. Jesse's like 5'5", 140 pounds. I mean, he's a scrawny little guy. A third police officer wearing T-shirts and shorts, not riot gear, walked over and just hauled back and gave him one right in the gut. And Jesse doubled over.
This is while he's being held by other policemen.
Jesse fell down face first onto the ground. Same officer then came, elbowed him right on the back. And he's obviously out of commission at that point, and I think screaming as well. The officer who was escorting me away at this point, I mean, we both saw it, looked at me and said, "Geez, that shouldn't have happened. Shouldn't have done that." And then I was kind of rushed away.
And at this point, we were definitely cornered, and it had been a while. Presumably, people would have left if the police had let us leave. but we were totally sealed off and there was absolutely nowhere to go. And on a couple of occasions they told us, leave, go home, which was very, very hypocritical because we had absolutely nowhere to go. A lot of people, probably a lot more than half, collapsed into the entrance of the parking garage of the Novotel. And a group of us, maybe about 50, stayed in the middle. Still maybe a couple of chants going on, and at that point they just started snatching people and disappearing them behind the police lines.
Frankly, I don't know why it had to happen. I think there's a distinction that needs to be made between people who only want to destroy property and torch police cars and are wearing disguises so you can't make out their identity, and they have a kind of orchestrated, strategic approach to, damaging property and harming people. There's that. And then there was what I saw, which was middle-class people of all ages, a very diverse crowd, just trying to make a point that whether the G20 is here or whether it isn't here, we don't necessarily give up all of our civil rights to speak freely and to assemble. That's the only point, as far as I could tell, and I talked to probably 50 demonstrators over the course of the night, that's the only point they were trying to make. And for trying to make that point, several hundred of them ended up in jail, and a few of them got beaten up.